I want to thank you guys all for being here tonight. Before we get started, I just want to introduce some of the guests that we have up here. We have Sam Lewis and Jack Lewis. They are students from St. Henry Elementary and Middle School. So Jack is in 5th grade and Sam is in 8th grade, and they're going to be mayor for the day. So they're going to spend a little bit of time with us, and they're going to start the meeting off. So with that, we're going to begin with the invocation. So Police Chaplain Brian Nevins, if you'd like to come to the podium, please.
There. Better? Yes, good. Please join me in prayer. You are a gracious and loving God, and we thank you for your many and abundant blessings. And thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing the responsibilities of our own well-being. Thank you also for the freedom to gather and direct our lives. We pray for Mayor Fetty, for our city manager, Matt Kramer, and our city council, whom we regard with gratitude for their service. And Lord, we desire to live our lives in peace. And so we ask that you graciously grant our city leaders unity in the diversity of needs, priorities, and personalities that bring richness to our city, wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, and a sense of welfare and true needs of our people, and a keen thirst for justice and rightness. We ask, Lord, for confidence in what is good and fitting for them. And we ask for insight to create an environment where active citizenship and compassion are encouraged. We also ask, Lord, for personal peace in their lives and joy in their task as they serve those who elected them. We pray for the agenda set before them today. Please give an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved friendship city of Erlanger. And we ask these things in the name of our most precious Savior, Jesus. Amen.
I now call the May 7th, 2019 regular meeting of the City Council to order.
I ask that you please rise to say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll ask Mrs. Hoffman to take roll call.
Mr. Burke? Here. Mr. Cahill?
Present.
Miss Kyle?
Present.
Mr. Skidmore? Here. Miss Sedkamp? Miss Cahill? Here. Mr. Meyer?
Here.
Miss Skidmore? Here. Miss Pitts?
Here.
Mr. Nicely? Here. Miss Reckers?
Here.
Mr. Hermes?
Thank you, Sherry. Okay, you've all received a copy of the minutes for the April 2nd, 2019 regular council meeting. Are there any additions or any corrections at this time? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion that we adopt as presented. Mrs. Kyle, Mrs. Reckers, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, now you've all also received a copy of the agenda for today's meeting. Are there any additions to be made at this time?
Madam Mayor, I'd move that we take item number 4, the ordinance reduction in the size of City Council, that first reading, and move it to the first meeting in June.
Okay.
There was a few questions that I think we wanted to have answered before we had a first reading on that.
Okay. Do we need a motion, a second for that change? Okay, do I have a motion?
I had the motion,
You
yeah.
motion, okay. And a second by Mr. Nicely. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that change has been made. We'll strike legislation number 4 from the agenda. Any other changes? Okay, seeing no other changes, do I entertain a motion that we adopt as presented? Mrs. Kyle? Mrs. Pitts, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Now, our business spotlight this evening is Novalex. And if you guys would like to come to the podium, the light is actually already on, so you are good to go. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us. Quick introduction, I'm Mike Samargi. I'm the Director of Distribution and Fulfillment for Novalex. And with me I also have Kathy Harris, if you want to stand up for a second. Kathy's our Senior Manager of the facility that's right down the street. We have some slides. Am I going to have to operate this thing? Arrows side to side? Got it. Okay, so just a little bit about Novalex. We're a industry leader in the packaging choice, in different types of packaging that we provide to customers, and it goes from food containment to commercial products to different types of paper, plastic bags that you see and use on a daily basis. A lot of you touch our products, or majority of folks touch our products multiple times a week and may not even know it. So when you go to Kroger and you're putting your produce in the plastic bags, that's us. Or the paper bags you're walking out with Whole Foods, the paper bags, that's us. Or if you just go to the mall and you're shopping at one of the locations, more than likely that's one of our bags. So we recently have moved into the facility down the street, the warehouse next door to Perfetti. We just opened the doors last week and we're in the process of loading. And we're very excited to be a part of the community and share a little bit about who we are. So Novalex's mission is to continue the tradition of leadership established by our brands to create new value and synergies by providing you with industry-leading packaging experts that covers the full spectrum of your operations. I'm sorry. Is that better? All right. All right. So move to the next one. Okay, so these are our brands. These are all the different products that we have. So Novalex is kind of like the mothership, our actual company, and then all the brands you see underneath, Hylex, Duro, Bagcraft, Deluxe, those are all divisions that are under the Novalex umbrella. This facility we're calling Novalex because in the future, it's more than likely going to house a lot of these different products. But mainly right now, it's going to house our Duro bag products. And some of you may know who Duro Bag is, but we have a manufacturing facility down here in Florence and a second one down in Richwood. Okay? Next slide, and this isn't looking very good up here. But ultimately what this slide shows is where we are. We're actually a very large organization. We've got 60 manufacturing facilities across the United States. Majority of it is east of the Mississippi River. We've actually got a very strong concentration in the northern Kentucky and the Ohio region. So not everything, again, is Duro. Some of the different locations we have up in Fairfield and all of that, they're plastic manufacturing. So different products based on the different companies. So how we started, we're not an old company, we're a fairly young company. Novalex was established back in 2012 as Duro Hylex Poly. It was a consolidation of 3 different businesses, and through the last really 6 years, through acquisition and organic growth, we've grown, and you can see some of the organizations or companies that we've picked up through time. Duro Bag was actually picked up in 2014, Heritage, Burroughs, and most recently, the Waddington Group. Some of you may know who they are. They were owned by Newell. They were also based out of Covington. They have an office there. So that was our largest acquisition. This last one pretty much got close to doubled our size overall. And just to touch on the last bullet, we're more than 10,000 employees in over 60 locations throughout the U.S. and several locations in Europe now. So this is just a quick overview of the different divisions. I just wanted to kind of share this a little bit on what the different products are. Again, Hylex is very plastic focused. Our Heritage business, you're going to see we make a lot of garbage bags. That's pretty much all it is different types of bags. Shields is more custom products, wrappers around like 6 packs of cans and different types of food containment packaging. And then this is the paper segment, which is really the biggest part of our business. More than half is focused on that. Bagcraft, Deluxe, General Packaging, those guys, they're going to make a lot of the stuff you see at Panera, where you bring your clam shells and sandwiches are stuck in, and Jersey Mike's and all these different places where you go. More than likely, that's something that we're producing in one of our locations. And at the end, it all goes in a Duro bag. So like I said, you see the different products. We have different handle sacks. We go from as small as the little liquor bags to the huge 1/6 handle paper bags that you see coming out of the stores. All right. And I think, we're big into sustainability. I wasn't really going to go into this much, but we do use a lot of recycled products in our locations as we manufacture. And actually, we own several recycling facilities that we recycle plastic and paper to bring it back in and reuse it and make new product out of it. So that's really the summary. Any questions from anybody? Yes, sir.
What did you say you were located at when you first started over here?
Which part?
The first one you said you were located somewhere down there.
Yeah, we're actually at the old movie theater next door to Perfetti. The old drive-in theater down here? And it's about a mile down the road. It's 630 Erlanger Road. So, the old showcase, right? Correct. Yep, we're on the front side of the first building that they built. In fact, our signage is going to be going up in about a week or two. Yes, sir. Now you're getting a little technical. I don't know where everything is. I think we have one down in Texas and another one in the southeast. I'm not exactly sure of the locations. Yep. 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 Yeah. We have one place down south in the Texas region, and the other one's in the southeast exactly. I'm not sure which one of the locations it is, but it's down there. That's mainly plastic, for the plastics, though. There was another question. Yes, sir. Not in the paper side, we don't. We don't do that, no. That's more on the plastics end, and that's with our Hylex business, which is based out of Roanoke, Texas. Yes, sir.
Are you aware of any movement by the government complaining about the plastics?
We are. That's the nice part for us, being Duro bag. We're paper. So we're seeing some tremendous growth in our business, but I mean, it's basically robbing one portion of our business and going to another. But we're also very heavily engaged with manufacturing recyclable plastics and changing the way we produce some of the bags so they're a little bit more environmentally friendly. Yes. Anything else? No? Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Okay. Next item on the agenda is our scholarship winner. Mrs. Skidmore, would you like to join me at the podium?
Okay, I'm reading this for Carolyn Gartner, who could not be here tonight. So it's written in first person, so when I start out with I, it's not me, okay? My name is Carolyn Gartner, and I received the City of Erlanger Scholarship last year. I would like to thank the City of Erlanger and City Council for selecting me as the recipient, and I'd like to share with you a little bit about my freshman year experience. I am currently attending the University of Kentucky in Lexington and just finished up my first year there. Freshman year was one I will never forget. Throughout this past year, I made the Dean's List and also joined the Delta Rho chapter of Delta 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 sorority. I am currently a marketing major at UK with a minor in communications. The biggest lesson I learned as an incoming freshman is to keep an open mind with meeting new and different people. Someone you might have blown off in high school could become a long-time friend. Receiving this scholarship helped ease a little bit of the financial burden associated with college tuition. I will forever be grateful to the City of Erlanger for again choosing me for this award. I want to wish the recipient this year the best of luck in college and wherever life takes them after that. Remember to go in with an open mind, make smart choices, and listen to the advice from your elders.
All right, thank you, Renee. So I'm really excited to present this award. 16 years ago, I was a senior at Dixie Heights High School, and I was honored to receive this same scholarship. And it's amazing the impact that it had on my life and the desire to come back to my city and help out in any way that I could. So it is my greatest pleasure to present this to you today. The 2019 City of Erlanger Community Achievement Scholarship recipient is Samantha Osborne. If you want to join. Over here. I'll tell a little bit about you. So Samantha is a senior at Dixie Heights High School. Samantha has received many awards and honors, including Dean's List, National Merit Scholar, AP Scholar, Governor's Scholar, KHSAA Academic All-State, Kentucky State Fair Reserve Grand Champion 4-H Sewing, and Grand Champion Kentucky State Fair 4-H in Quilting. Samantha has been active in the community and has volunteered for numerous agencies, including Greenview Campus of Florence Baptist Church, St. Elizabeth Hospital, Dixie Heights, Operation Cookie Drop, Kenton County 4-H, and the Ronald McDonald House. Please join me in congratulating Samantha Osborne.
I'd just like to thank everyone who helped make this possible. I know my mother is a single mom, and this really helps with all of the cost. And even though I am a governor's scholar and that helps take care of my tuition at UK, room and board is still pretty extensive. So I just thank you guys for this scholarship.
All right. We have a couple of other proclamations for tonight. Next one, I would like to call out a couple of special weeks that are in the month of May. So I won't read this entire proclamation, but for May 5th through May 11th is entire month of May is Building Safety Month. So in the city of Erlanger, I do commend this observance to all our citizens, given under my hand and the seal of the city of Erlanger on this day, May 7th, 2019. Okay, then another proclamation that we have tonight, and I will go ahead and read this full one because it's so very important. So to all whom these presents shall come. Whereas May 18th, 2019 is the 9th Kids to Parks Day organized and launched by the National Park Trust, held annually on the third Saturday of May. And whereas Kids to Parks Day empowers kids and encourages families to get outdoors and visit America's parks, public lands, and waters. And whereas it is important to introduce a new generation to our nation's parks because of a decline in park attendance over the last decade. And whereas you should encourage children to lead a more active, lifestyle to combat the issues of childhood obesity, diabetes, hypertension, and hypocholestery. Cholesterol. How do you say that? Sounds good, right? Yeah. All right. Whereas Kids to Parks Day is open to all children and adults across the country to encourage a large and diverse group of participants. Whereas Kids to Parks Day will broaden children's appreciation for nature and the outdoors. Now, therefore, I, Jessica Fetty, Mayor of the City of Erlanger, Kenton County, Kentucky, urge residents of the City of Erlanger to make time on May 18, 2019, to take the children in their lives to a neighborhood, state, or national park and proclaim May 18, 2019 to be Kids to Parks Day. And with that, on May 18th, the Take a Hike Day will be at the Doe Run Lake Park. If you guys are unfamiliar with this park, it is a true treasure, and I ask that you go Google it and find it because you will not regret it. Okay. All right. Okay, we have two other proclamations for tonight, and these I'm going to talk down here, and if all of the future problem-solving kids from the middle school, from St. Henry, can come up to the front, and the high school, come on up. This is your day too. This is important. Okay, so we have proclamations for both of you guys, for the middle school and for the high school. You're going to share a day. So you guys now have a special day in the city of Erlanger, which is very, very cool, May 8th. Okay? All right, so let's talk about how awesome you guys are. So congratulations to the St. Henry Catholic School Middle School Future Problem Solving Team members, including Sydney Hennessy, Molly Krallman, Gracie Grieber, Carson Gold. The team is coached by Melinda Gold. The problem solvers have been working hard since August to represent St. Henry Catholic School well this year, and they have done that. These hardworking students won first place at both district and regionals Governor's Cup this year and placed third at state finals in Louisville in March. Their high placement at state finals advanced them to a global competition. They are currently studying the topic of de-extinction in order to take on the world in Amherst, Massachusetts in June. This summer, future problem solvers from around the globe that have qualified will come together to celebrate the final round of their competitive season of the Future Problem Solving International Conference. The conference occurs each June at a university in the USA. This annual competition draws 2,500 problem-solving champions from the 23,000 plus students who compete at local and regional levels throughout the year from 13 different countries. Successful teams and individuals from affiliate programs and mentored regions converge to recognize their accomplishments and expertise gained from using the creative problem-solving process. Before competition begins, all participants gather to celebrate the breathtaking flag procession designed to welcome every region represented and kick off the international conference. Now, I know that you guys need to represent the city that you are coming from. So I have these special pins that I have for all of you. Okay. now to represent the St. Henry High School, Aaron Earing, Zach Owen, Noah Francis, and Griffin Gold. The team is coached by Melinda Gold and Jennifer Earing. 3 of the students from the St. Henry High School graduates, and one are St. Henry Catholic School graduates, and one is from Immaculate Heart of Mary. St. Henry High School won first place at both district and regionals Governor Cup this year, and were runners-up at the state finals in Louisville in March. The high school team will also advance to the international conference and compete against the world in June. In addition, junior Aaron Earing placed 10th at state finals in the individual FPS statewide competition in the senior division. Freshman Noah Francis placed 5th at state finals in the individual FPS statewide competition in the middle division. And Noah also placed 8th last year in the individual FPS statewide competition in the middle division. Amazing season, guys. We are so looking forward to see how you guys are going to do this summer, and best of luck to everybody. Okay. I missed one person. Nathan Francis. Sorry, man. And the middle school team, Nathan Francis. Awesome. All right. So before I let you guys go, I have one other special announcement. So the Commission of Kentucky Colonel is the highest title of honor bestowed by the Governor of Kentucky. It is recognition of an individual's noteworthy accomplishments and outstanding service to our community, state, and nation. Kentucky Colonels are unwavering in devotion to faith, family, and Commonwealth and our country. Passionate about being compassionate. Proud leaders who are gentle but strong in will and commitment. Melinda Gold is being celebrated for her passion, inspiration, and participation in her community, state, and nation. Melinda has been coaching Kentucky Future Problem Solvers elementary, junior division, middle school, and high school for the past 5 years. She was the first coach in Kentucky to bring home the International Presentation of Action Plan 4th place in the world. She was the first coach to win on a high school level. She is a full-time mom and a pharmacist. She also participates in her community through service in her church, her children's schools, sports, and theater. Melinda is the Energizer bunny that doesn't stop giving. Please join me in congratulating the Honorable Melinda Gold as a Kentucky Colonel. Congratulations. We're going to say goodbye to our special guests today. All right. All right, so the next thing on the agenda is citizen and public comments. Mr. Hahn, do you have the list for me, please? Okay. All right, right here. Okay, we've got quite a few on the list here. Okay, the first one is Arlene Luby.
We do have quite a few people on the list, and just, I know a lot of you, based on the list, are not, maybe don't normally attend our meetings. So we are not going to be rude, but per our rules and procedures, everyone will be limited to 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name's Arlene Luby, and I'm on City Council in Crestview Hills. I'm here tonight to support the members of our community, especially Old Crestview Hills. Their property values are being impacted by a development that's taking place in Erlanger, and I will welcome them to speak next and tell you more details.
Okay, the next person in line is Tanya Ritchie.
I'm here once again to speak against the rezoning or reverbalization or redefinition of allowing a private or parochial school into a residential area. For one, they need a minimum of a land. The land that they're wanting to put this school on is not large enough. For two, the roadway is not enough. And I'm sorry, living next to a grade school is pure hell. I live next door to one. And Mr. Newsom's comments about there's ordinances to protect you, there's not. They don't do any good. Okay? My property's being destroyed. My sanity's being destroyed. And I worked for the school for 17 years. It's not a good thing. We don't need a school across the street from residences. For 50 years, my parents have lived on Hulbert. They've been told that the land was for single-family residents. When they started clearing it off, we were told it was going to stay single-family residents. I understand progress. Personally, I would soon see the cows be still coming across the street visiting, but I understand that. We don't need a school. You put a school over there, it's 15,000 square feet. That school goes out of business just like all the other ones have. We're going to be stuck with a 15,000 square foot building. Who's going to move into that and as a single family residence? Is any one of you going to buy that for a residence? It's not. It's going to have to be a business. So right there, you've got their foot in the door to put a business in. It's not going to be a residence. We do not want a school. We don't want the kids screaming. We don't want the delivery trucks. None of it. Or the traffic. I mean, that's a lot of the people's complaints is the traffic. 100 to 150 cars a day, more on the road. That's just the basis. It's not needed. There is a perfectly good daycare over in Edgewood. It's empty. Tell them to go over there. Really nice. It's got a cool playground, too. It's right off of Legends Way.
Thank you. Okay. Next on the list is Scott Hull.
My name's Scott Hall. Didn't think I'd be up speaking so soon, but I live in Crestview Hills, and I am here to support our old Crestview Hills neighborhood and challenge the city of Erlanger to consider them in the development of the distribution warehouse that's going on their eastern border there that borders the old Crestview Hills, and treat that residential neighborhood just like you would treat yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hull. Lucy Riffle.
As most of you know, I have lived in my home on Erlanger Road for 63 and a half years. My family has lived there since 1922. So I understand the city of Erlanger. My father was city manager for, I don't know, however long, and my brother was mayor 2 terms and served on council. I understand the workings of the city of Erlanger and have always been very proud of it. We do not have the political infighting that we see frequently on the news that happens in other cities. I know that this item has been taken off the agenda for this evening, but I'm not sure I'll be back in June, so I'm going to speak this evening. I am opposed to the reduction of council. As we have it now, and luckily in this election cycle, we are covered by all sides of the city. My brother, as you know, lives over on, as I call it, Soviet Erlanger. I've always called it that, down off Turkey Foot and Richardson. We have members that live on that side. We have members that live here in Old Erlanger. We have members that hit the other side of Erlanger. And by doing that, we do not have a faction that is looking only at their side of town. By doing that, by having 12 members, we have 12 different opinions. I watch every one of your meetings, but I normally am not here to speak because I believe that with 12 different personalities and different opinions, that we are coming to the proper conclusion when a vote is taken. If you reduce the number of council members, you will not have that variety of thoughts and that variety of people. I don't understand the reason for a reduction in council. Council, as you know, is a community service. It is not a job. Yes, you get some remuneration and it covers maybe your gasoline, but you don't do it as a job. You do it because of community service and your love for the city. I also know all about that. I was a volunteer on the rescue squad. I was a volunteer on the fire department auxiliary. Didn't get a nickel for any of those years, not a nickel. So I don't understand the reason for it. If it's because we want to increase council pay and you can't do it for 12, you need to think again about what your purpose of being on council is. If it is for a job, then you're in the wrong place. You need to go somewhere else and look for a job. By keeping the council member at 12, and even if the election did not hit all sides of towns, as sometimes it may not, you still have 12 different personalities and opinions and minds thinking on any topic. I think we, as a city, have been very proud of the fact that the council members have all come in with a good, open mind on topics. I'm not opposed to change. Change is often looked at, even though it's a 6-letter word, as a 4-letter word. But change can be good if there's a reason for it. We have a change this year in the mayor. And from what I've seen of Mrs. Fetty, she's doing an outstanding job. She's taken it as a full-time job, even though it's not, but she is here working and learning and striving to do what's best for the city.
Mrs. Riffle, you're at over 3 minutes, I'm sorry.
Sorry. But again, my opinions on that is that we need to keep the council as it currently is. We never have an election without enough people running.
Thank you, Ms. Riffle. Okay. Jay Zhang is the next.
Hi, I'm Jay Zhang, and I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you tonight. I'm here to talk about the warehouse development that's backing up against Old Crestview Hills. I'm here as a proud business owner here in the city of Erlanger, and my cousin Mike and I have, and our 41 employees are going to celebrate 31 years in September. I have some concerns regarding traffic. I don't know if any traffic studies have been done, but today, as a for instance, and I don't know if we have cameras in the city of Erlanger to check it out, but I was stuck behind a tractor trailer for 2 lights waiting for it to turn, going south on Dixie Highway to Kenton Lands Road. This was not during rush hour, and during that period of time, traffic had already backed up to the chicken joint. So my point is, I'm very concerned about what this traffic will do and impact my business, because fully over 75% of the business that we receive in Erlanger comes from the north side of Dixie Highway. When that property was zoned industrial, it's probably been zoned industrial since the beginning of zoning. Since then, we have Silver Lake Park that has been added to that area. I'm not sure that it's a good idea to mingle trucks with Silver Lake Park. The library seats hundreds of kids a day. I'm concerned about those kids mingling with those tractor trailers. Silver Lake Recreation Center on weekends sees thousands of kids. I'm concerned about tractor trailers. I don't know if it's supposed to be a 24-hour operation. I really don't. But I truly am concerned about the decision to allow a facility like that. I understand it's zoned that way, but I think some consideration ought to be given to what's going on there in the hours of its operation. As a resident of Crestview Hills, I asked the Friendship City to have a little consideration. I understand there's a current ordinance, but it would be really nice if that building, if it should go through, could at least be flipped so that those loading bays are not backing up to our bedroom windows and beeping at all hours of the day and night. So I appreciate you listening to me, and thanks for the opportunity to address you.
Thank you, Mr. Zhang. Mr. Tom Tuis.
Good evening. My name is Tom Tuis. We own the turkey and poultry farm. I live at 3088 Hulbert Avenue, and we are pretty much right across from where they want to put this school. And we've lived there 38 years, I think now. And we are definitely opposed to this school. I know where the school is, and they want to move from that location. But from what I see, the traffic problems that we do have, a few things I have to comment on is where they are, why don't they give the other small businesses next to their building, buy them out, and stay in their location? The other thing is, why can't they put a school where Locust Street School used to be? Is that impossible? Instead of putting it on Hulbert Avenue. It was a school at one time. Why can't it be a school again? And the other thing is, it will not really help our community with that type of school in that place. And the other thing is, if they want it, put it on the lot right down below, right behind the library. They say it's zoned for business, and whatever it is, that gentleman that said he wants to put 5 different businesses on that lot, put the school in make the school one of those businesses. I've lived here a long time, and I don't see why they can't come up with some other solutions for a school. Sure, we need children, we need education, I agree with that, but not where it is now. So, thank you for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tuis. Okay, we have Rosie Tuis. Okay. Okay, we have Craig Tuis.
Good evening. My name is Craig Tuis. I live at 3090 Hulbert Avenue. Lived here majority of my life. And I agree with what my father said. We are against any text amendments that would allow this facility to go in place. As far as we can tell, this enterprise would not serve the community of Erlanger. If you're going to put an enterprise like this in a residential area, it would need to serve the citizens of Erlanger. And a business, and I'm going to call it a business because it costs $10,000 to $12,000 a year to send a child to this facility. If you're going to do that, then it should serve the citizens of this area. If it would be a extension of Erlanger-Ellesmere School or extension of St. Henry, those facilities serve Erlanger citizens. They want to put this in a residential area, they're going to bring people from everywhere to this spot. But there's not going to be very many people in this community that would send a child to that facility. So that's my main objection to it. If you're going to bring something in, it needs to add to this facility or the community. The library serves every citizen in Erlanger. Silver Lake serves the majority of people that want to use it, City of Erlanger. This will be everyone coming into it. And it's not going to help the kids on our street it just wouldn't be something that I would see that they would use. And the other thing would be the safety issue in the stretch from Riggs to where their entry would be. My neighbors have 4 kids, I have 3, and a couple of the neighbors down the street have 4 or 5 kids between them. And they talk about safety concern of that with our children playing there, plus all the other kids that you get from the library that come from Erlanger walking down the street, all the kids that come from Silver Lake that come to the library. That community is what's being served there. And you're going to add all this other traffic that doesn't help or serve that area. So, thank you for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Tuis. Okay, Mr. Paul Becker. You are. Would you like some time? Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Paul Meyer. Mayor Paul Meyer.
Thank you, Mayor Fetty and council members for allowing me time to speak at your city. It's great to see all the interesting young people coming up, getting their awards, so really thank you for doing that for our young people. I'm here tonight because, as you know, our residents have had a shock several months ago when the tree clearing started occurring on the land on Kettenlands Road, and to find out that it was going to be a 300,000 square warehouse was even a greater shock because of the topography of that land. However, your city engineer has done a great job of citing that on that piece of property. What I would ask that you consider a text amendment to your current IP1 zone that would allow buildings of that type, especially when it's adjacent to a residential neighborhood, to have those loading docks on it in the front instead of your restriction to rear and side. The reason why that is you can imagine if you had a piece of property that was basically on the other side, or next to a football field, because that's what we're talking about, distance between the building or the property and the back of these residents. You can imagine if you hit a truck, if it is a 24 operation, backing up with the backup alarms going every night of the week, 7 days a week, and also, of course, what happens when the truck stops, the air brakes kick in, and also all the conversation, the diesel fuel. So I would ask that you consider, your council consider sending a text amendment to Kenton County Planning Commission to allow the flipping of that building. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Meyer. Okay. Dallas Hedge.
I just wanted to say that I just recently heard they were talking about putting stop signs up on Center, Clay, and Locust Street possibly. And I think they've never had stop signs there for reasons, because during the winter, it's a very bad place to get in and out of. And if you would have to stop, you won't get going again. You'll just slide backwards. I've lived there for 40 years on Center Street. I lived 10 years on Division Street. I've been driving these roads for a long time. I went to Lloyd. I drove before I lived there, and taking kids back and forth to school. And those can be really bad areas if you would have to stop. So I don't know if there's been studies done to see how many accidents have been there. I've hardly ever heard of any. People don't stop at the stop signs that are there too often. You have to really be careful, and I think people learn that. But I think the residents haven't been informed of this, that maybe bought houses knowing that that wouldn't be a problem. And I don't know if there's, you know, a way to look at it that that those stop signs were not put there for reasons when those streets were made by the city and that. So I guess that's about all I had to say, and I don't know how many people know about this that's going on.
Thank you. Okay, we have Linda Martis.
Hi. I want to let you know that I'm 100% against what they're wanting to do along Halbert. Halbert is not an arterial road. We do not need trucks, semis, the possibility of another 2 or 3 lanes added to the street where it'll take the front part of the front yard, so the residents that have lived there for many, many years, not to mention the danger to children and people. And it's just something we do not need. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Ligas.
Hello. I grew up at 3126. My mom lives at 3120, and I live at 3170. I am also opposed to the school going across the street from the Tuises and my mother for several reasons. If it was needed, like in a public elementary school or such, I would understand. But that corner of Erlanger, most of them are not, I'd say probably none of them are going to afford to be able to send their child there, yet their life will be turned upside down because that does exist there. Where it exists now, we kind of surveyed it, sat out and watched it a couple days. Without that third lane in the middle, it's total gridlock. Halbert can't handle that traffic. If you think about in the evening or in the mornings when you're sitting in your house or your afternoon and you hear your neighbor come home, you hear their door shut. We are increasing, they have 89 students right now. That's, I think, 72 families, 20 employees. We're increasing noise pollution. They have to have deliveries, and they have to have trash pickup. And like Ms. Runyon said, you know, you can say all day long, well, they're not allowed to pick up the trash until this time or that time or this time. But those, you know, they pick up the trash when they want to. And you don't get out of bed every morning and crab at them. I mean, I know Tanya's tried. So I just am strongly against it. We have a petition that my brother will present of 70 residents that were showed the papers of what was suggested is going to happen, and they strongly oppose it. There's plenty of other land in other areas that this could go. I'm not against the school, just where it's going to go. We don't need the noise, the traffic. we would really like you to keep it single-family homes over there. And it is a very good possibility. They're wanting to increase to 100, they said they feel like they can increase to 150 students within 3 to 5 years. They're already going to have the land, so they're just going to build on after that as they increase, or they'll have to move. And then something that suits that size building has to go in, possibly a funeral home. I don't know what it would be at that point. We've lost a lot in Erlanger as far as it seems to be becoming like a warehouse, all warehouses across from us. The woods are gone, I understand. We would like to see some nice homes there. And as far as flipping the building, this is a different subject of the warehouse on the other side. They're talking about flipping it to be considerate to our Crestview Hills, which I totally understand. But then we run into the problem that you flip it to the people that are living right there by the Erlanger Library too. So sounds like there needs to be some meeting. And I also agree that traffic is horrible over there. I don't know how we're going to handle all those semis for the warehouses that are going to be built.
Thank you.
We just
That's-
ask you as
that's been-
council members to consider the folks that live in that corner of Erlanger, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Next one is Scott Easkin.
Yes, how you gentlemen doing, ladies and gentlemen? I'm a new homeowner. I'd say it's probably going on 3 years in the city of Erlanger. Now, I'm opposed against this because it's just too much traffic, and then you got your land, your taxes, state and local taxes going up. I never had this kind of a payment, and now all of a sudden, this year it jumps up to $100 more. So what's this all going to come up to other homeowners, new homeowners trying to live better lives? And it's going to increase everybody's residential pay monthly. You're on a fixed rate, then all of a sudden it goes to this like that. So it's going to affect everybody. So I think there's need to be more hearings and action and better location, definitely. With that being said, I'm glad to be living in the city of Erlanger. So if we can keep it at a minimum, traffic and pollution, noise, so have you, we need to do that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Brandon Martis.
I'm Brandon Martis, and I live at 3170 Holbert. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. But I just wanted to state that I'm opposed to the school and the building, and we actually had a petition where I went door to door and asked the opinion of neighbors, just giving them the 2 letters. And I've got 71 signatures here of people that are opposed to it, and a lot of those folks are here. But when we look at the structural capabilities of the road in regards to the Erlanger zoning ordinance dated as of January 2018, section 10.6 of this zoning ordinance, subsection C, talks about conditional uses. The following uses or any customary accessory building or uses subject to the approval of the Board of Adjustment as set forth in section 9.14 and on and on. And then there's multiple points associated with that. One of those, number 5, it says institutions for higher education, providing they are located adjacent to an arterial street. And again, that arterial street is brought up in section 11, or I'm sorry, point number 11, it talks about a child care center, public and parochial schools. And it's key that they're adjacent to arterial streets. Holbert's not an arterial street. Holbert is a residential street. Looking up the actual definition of an arterial road, an arterial road is an arterial thoroughfare, is a high-capacity urban road. The primary function of an arterial road is to deliver traffic from collector roads to freeways or expressways. So, something like Dixie Highway is an arterial road. Holbert's not an arterial road, and we're proposing to put a school with a driveway entering onto Holbert. Holbert's not an arterial road, and if we go by the actual codes, these institutions for learning, schools, whatever you want to call it, provided they're adjacent to an arterial street. That's not Holbert. But I don't want to restate everything that everybody else talked about, such as the noise and the traffic. That's obvious, but by definition, Holbert's not an arterial road. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, Mary Ann Leland.
Good evening. My name is Mary Ann Leland. I live in a community off of Richardson Road called Lakemont. We are having parking issues up there, and I'm having trouble trying to figure out who is responsible. We live on a dead-end street where there's like maybe there's a house on one side, or a condo on one side and a condo on the other. There's room enough to park 2 cars, but when people park them side by side, and when they do that, our front door is blocked. If we would ever have to have the fire department, the policemen, the life squad, anything, they would not be able to get to our front door because of the parking block in it. What I would like to do or see to get done is to either have no parking sign put there or have a sign that says tow away zone, so that if someone does park there, we wouldn't have to get the police involved. We could just go ahead and call the tow truck. What I'm having an issue with is to try to figure out who is responsible to do this. The City of Erlanger or the HOA of our community. And I just need some help on that to get it started, or, I have already been to the HOA, and we have already been to the city, and it's like back and forth,
Okay. Ma'am, this is the first I've heard of this. If your phone number is correct on here,
Yes, sir.
I'll contact you tomorrow and try to get some more details and try to give you some guidance on that.
Okay.
Okay?
Our condo sits, it's really weird because our front door is on the side street, but our driveways are 3 driveways up around the corner because we're kind of like an L-shaped.
Gotcha.
And then there's a condo like in the corner of ours.
Okay, we'll take a look at it. I'll talk to you tomorrow about it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, Gus McKinley.
I'm a resident of Crestview Hills, and Mayor Meyer took a few of the points that I kind of had, but I think on top of what he had to say about the development there on Kenton Lands, another piece that needs to be considered is the enhancement of the screening between the new development and the neighborhood there, just to try and block some of the sound that's going to be there. I know you've got ordinances to cover that, but I feel like it probably needs to be enhanced a little bit from a sound, even if you flip the building docks to the opposite side, you're still going to have the sound bouncing off of the railroad tracks. That's going to be a lot louder than it is today. Outside of that, I think everybody's kind of covered the other points that I had, but I thought that was one that hasn't been mentioned yet, something to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Janine Horner.
Hello, my name is Janine Horner, and I am new to the old Crestview Hills Lakes community. I am no stranger to Erlanger, Ellesmere area because I was a middle school, high school teacher at St. Henry for several years, a coach. Then I worked at the fitness club that's now Silver Lake. But 17 years ago, I moved out to the country looking for better pastures, and I moved to Hebron. So Hebron brought me the glorious green pastures, and then Amazon, and then World Complex, World Center. I'm no stranger to sound because we were right in the flight path. I can get over that. I can get over a train because I move right with my backside to the trains. My family grew up next to the trains on Mary Street. I'm perfectly fine with that. 3 years ago, we decided that when our children went to schools in this area, traffic was more of a problem. I spent more of my time in the car and eating at Skyline and any of the other restaurants around town than spending with my family. So we moved to this location. Love the area, love the neighbors, love the community, love everything that this has to offer, love the growth, love the opportunities that are out there. I am a nurse, so now I think, if, then what? My contingency plan, what has to happen next? As a teacher, we thought about it. If this happens, then what do I do? How do I protect? How do I cover? How do I anticipate need, growth, and cost? What are the repercussions that are going to snowball because of action or lack of action? So I was surprised as everyone else when I'm walking through my new neighborhood with my 2 dogs and I see trees being cleared. And I'm thinking, okay, talk to the guys. They tell me they're being cleared because they have some kind of disease process or there's an insect infestation with them. And I'm okay with that. It's an improvement. They're clearing out, they're grading. So then I find out in my neighborhood that they're going to put this Kenton Lands development. And again, it's a great road, a great opportunity, great piece of land. I drive by, I see it's completely cleared. Silver Lake is now done an addition, making it a great place for families and communities. There's some established businesses there. The library is expanding. You know, all the things that are there, the Tuis Farm, historical and new, all blended together. My problem is that when I'm looking at it is we have a traffic problem. Besides the sound and the noise, one way in, one way out, maybe a side street through the residential areas that these people were saying that's their home. How are the roads going to handle this? They don't stop for the stop signs anyway. Now we're talking about trucks and lots of them. Traffic, if an interstate has a problem, backs up. I'm also thinking of emergency situations. We have the family place with lots of head counts in and out of that place, and the park. How does the fire EMS get in, get out with one way in, no shoulder to pull over?
Thank you,
I'm
ma'am.
just
We're
concerned
over
about
3
things,
minutes
and I
here.
hope that people think things through before they take action. I'm not against progress and opportunity, but I
Thank
think
you.
everybody should be considered. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Horner. Okay, Tim Tyson.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I am Tim Tyson. I'm an attorney, practice with the law firm of Strauss Troy, based in Covington. I am here tonight because a friend and colleague and client of mine, Bernie Wessels, came up sick and wasn't able to be here, so he asked me to come and talk about, he's the one that's developing the private school site okay, along with the industrial site that's already been approved. His son Kent is here with me. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to try and answer those. I want to take a minute and just, and I know this isn't going to be popular, you've got some citizens here to talk about this tonight and have some concerns about it. I want to bring it down to kind of what your core issue is. What you've got before you tonight is a text amendment in your zone already, and by the way, in the zone of every city in the county, in Kenton County, you have a zone that has a conditional use permit of public and parochial schools. That zoning code, just so you guys know, was adopted in about 1966 in most of the cities around Kenton County. And at that time, it was written public and parochial schools because that's probably all we had. It wasn't intended to include or exclude any kinds of schools. It was written because it was probably the only kind of schools we had, and so that was written at that time, assuming that schools were permitted. By the way, schools in a residential zone is very common. All right, that's not an unusual use to put in a residential zone. So what we've done here is some question came up because this school is technically not public, it's technically not parochial because it's not religion-based, it's a private school. So the question came around, can they go on this site? Well, I'll say sort of an abundance of legal caution, they decided, okay, well, we ought to do this text amendment just to make sure that a private school is permitted, all right? And so that's what we're doing. By the way, this is not unprecedented. There's other cities, even in Kenton County, that allow private schools in residential zones. Let's see, Lakeside Park has changed their code already to do exactly what's being proposed for you guys tonight. So we would ask you to consider that. What you've got here is a school, and so like any other school, whether it's public or private or parochial, is you've got the same things going. You've got students going there, you've got teachers going there, they come to school at the hours when they normally do, they go home when they normally do. And so allowing a school in this site, whether it's private or any kind, is okay, and that's what's done. By the way, the size of the school is appropriate for the size of the tract of land that it's going on. Not particularly dense compared to other schools, all right? And so adding it here kind of makes sense, and it's already been approved by the Planning Commission, it's already been approved by the Board of Adjustment here, so it sort of makes sense to do that. Traffic has been brought up by several of the people with you already. I get that. You know, if you're going to oppose any kind of a development in any community, mentioning traffic is obviously a thing. We all have to deal with that from time to time. What we have here is a particularly small school. All right, so not saying that there isn't going to be some cars going in and out of there. There will, but we've got a small school. We've got, I think, as I understand it from what the other lady said, a maximum capacity of 150 students or something like that. We're not talking about Dixie Heights High School or some such thing as that.
Sure. You're over time, I'm sorry.
Are we? Okay.
Yep.
I'd just like to ask this. So on behalf of the applicant addressing this, will there be another opportunity later in the agenda when you're going on the first reading to address any other concerns?
I guess, I mean, this is just a first reading tonight. There's no action being taken.
Okay.
So I think because of the amount of people that are here, I think we really have to stay strict to the 3 minutes.
Okay.
But it's a first reading. Like, no action is being taken. We're merely doing a first reading.
Right. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Next is Jim Dobbing. And if I mispronounced that, I apologize.
Robinson? Was it the second one on the list?
Yes, sir. Come on up.
Hi, my name is Jim Robinson. I was born in Erlanger in '43. I moved back to Erlanger in '85. I've been here ever since. I live on Locust Street. One of the main problem I'm here is you want to put a stop sign at top of the street. There's never been a stop sign at top of Locust, Center, or Clay. Try to go up Clay without and stop. Try that. Our street's bad enough, but Clay is worse. The people who come through there who complain about that don't bother reading the signs that says stop, or traffic on the left doesn't stop, or traffic on the right doesn't stop. They don't pay attention to that. Usually they're smoking a cigarette, playing with their phone or something as they whiz on through. I know you have limited resources for cops to set on these signs. I never see them set on these signs. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. Anyhow, so I'm opposed to stop signs. And I just heard about the other day, this school down there. Now, It may be a small school, but we don't need it having traffic on Hulbert Road. Hulbert Road has got enough traffic on it now. Go out there and do a count, see what it is. But it's bad. So I'm opposed to that school nonsense down there. Put it out on Donaldson, you know? You got plenty of room out there on Donaldson, old Marydale, whatever the hell that was. You've got that out there. Put it out there. That's an arterial road. Hulbert is not. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Charles McClanahan. Charles McClanahan.
Yes, my name is Charles McClanahan. I live at 3166 Hulbert. This past April, I lived there for 55 years. Probably all you guys are too young for that. Maybe, no, he's old enough for that, I guess. But anyway, I'm against this school too, because it's been zoned as residential, and that's the way it should stay. A developer fills these pockets and moves on someplace else, takes something else away from somebody else. The school is getting larger. We don't need to have all that traffic on Hubbard Avenue. So I'm opposed to it, and I beg you to not allow it to happen. Thank you.
Okay, Dan Nicely.
Hello, I'm Dan Nicely, Locust Street, Erlanger. Been here for many years. I'm opposed to the stop signs on Locust, Clay, and Center. I am one, when I was younger, I did the backward slide down the Locust Street. It's a wonderful way to go down, and unintentional. I believe they don't need the stop sign there. I think a good driver will look out. They're watching where they're going. They look for the big picture. If we didn't have as many drive-through the stop signs on Hulbert, I don't know. I've never really had a problem. I've had a couple close calls, but I look for them. I don't know. To put a stop sign there, I think, is asking for trouble, extreme trouble. I think there hasn't been any accidents. I watched a video of the meeting where this was proposed the other night, and it was brought up about any accidents that have occurred on Hulbert at any of these three intersecting streets because of no stop signs. And y'all said there really wasn't. There's a couple. Well, that's been many years. I think I did my slide back when I was 17, and that's been a few years ago. There's many people on our street, they have standard shift. That was brought up. They said, people don't have standard shifts, so it doesn't make any difference anymore. Quite a few of us. I've got one. There's a number of us on the street that still like standard shift. I had a friend a couple months ago. We had that quick snowstorm. She came over for dinner. It snowed when she was there. It was clear when she came over. She left. She had a brand new car, brand new Honda, front-wheel drive, automatic, everything. She did make it up the hill because she didn't have to stop for the stop sign. So I'm really opposed to any ideas of putting a stop sign up there, and I'm really upset about the way that it was done. I mean, one person brings it up. I mean, it's a, you know, not one person on our streets was asked about their opinion on how, you know, anything about it. It was, I don't know, I think the people that live there, they're going to be affected by it the most, should be taken into consideration. I mean, I pay my taxes. All my friends pay their taxes, my parents, my family. I think we should be considered, our opinion on these stop signs should be considered also. Thank you very much.
Bob Koenig is next.
Good evening. I live on Locust Street at 431, and my street, just like Clay and Center, all have an uphill grade in order to get to the intersection where the proposed stop signs would be installed. Anytime we have inclement weather where that road is slippery, there is a danger of slipping backward. So I think it's a real problem to put a stop sign there. Furthermore, I understand that someone who proposed this did not even live on one of those 3 streets who would be directly impacted by it. I realize that it's an irritation to some people who have to stop when they see us pull through, but in inclement weather, that's about all you can do. I do have to say that when I get to that intersection, I go through that intersection with a bit of anxiety because people do not necessarily pay attention to those signs, which says that we have direct access or we have the right-of-way to go through there. I don't know if funds would permit it, but it would surely would be helpful if some kind of blinking light could be put around those signs so that the drivers would pay more attention to them. So thank you for listening. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Okay, Jack Ashcraft is next.
Hi, I'm Jack Ashcraft. I live at 3130 Hulbert Avenue. I'd like to thank the council for giving us an opportunity to speak. Like others have expressed, I am opposed to the building of the school on Hulbert Avenue, and I would also ask that the council consider that the project on Kenton Lands and the proposed school on Hulbert are actually twinned because they're very close together. And not only that, but they're at cross purposes because you're asking, on one side, you're putting in a factory, a warehouse that is going to create a lot of traffic next to another source of traffic, which unfortunately is going to be a lot of foot traffic, pedestrian traffic. And in the interest of looking out for the kids as well as the community at large, the two shouldn't be that close together. And since Hulbert is a residential district and Hulbert Avenue is a residential street, should stay a residential street, it sounds like the Kenton Lands project is already pretty much a foregone conclusion. That's going to happen. I'm hoping that the situation on Hulbert is not the same because the two are just going to create too much traffic and they're going to put 2 different groups of citizens at loggerheads with one another. And already with the Silver Lake expansion, we haven't seen it ramped up yet where the traffic for the expansion of Silver Lake, where the swim meets and the bowling alley and everything, we haven't seen that traffic, but it's already heavy. When you combine all of that, I think the combination of the foot traffic and the truck traffic and the vehicular traffic it's just a recipe for disaster. Thank you.
Okay, we have Ed Moynihan.
I'm Ed Monahan. I'm a lawyer with Monahan and Blankenship in Florence. I'm a former resident of the old section of Crestview Hills, and I have a number of friends and former neighbors there, and they've asked me to come and speak a little bit about this warehouse development, which is directly across the railroad tracks. Many of the residents there, their backyards back up directly to the railroad tracks. And apparently the loading dock on this proposed warehouse design is going to face the backyards of these residents. We're concerned with the sound and the noise levels. It's going to be a continual, I think, nuisance problem. But specifically, we would like a chance on behalf of the people of Crestview Hills to take a look at these plans for the design of this and building of this warehouse, so that maybe some things can be done, in particular what was mentioned by the mayor of Crestview Hills to flip this thing over so that the loading dock does not face directly into the backyards of the residents. But, so, you know, we're just asking Earl Langer to be a good neighbor and to give us a chance to have some input into this. Thank you.
Thank you. Crystal Fetters. Crystal Fetters. Okay. Barb Weber. Okay. And David Kramer.
You know, we have a limit, the amount of lawyers that can speak, and
I was told I had
you've
three-
already exceeded your
I was told
limit.
I had 3 minutes, but I'm going to take about 30 seconds. I'm on Crestview Hills City Council, and when our meetings run 45 minutes to 50 minutes, I start looking at my watch. So you all been here a long time. I'll be brief. You've heard from our mayor. You've heard from several residents. You've heard from Councilwoman Luby. To the extent you all can take steps to mitigate the effects of this warehouse on Kenton Lands Road, on the residential section of Crestview Hills, to the extent you can mitigate the noise, the hours of operation, the visual impact, all those sorts of things. I would just encourage you all to be a good neighbor, okay? I mean, we're neighbors. And I'm actually chair of zoning and economic development in Crestview Hills, and I can assure you we have residences on Edgewood and Lakeside Park. I would not permit personally a commercial development in our city to impinge on their residents any more than I would on our own. So I would just ask you all to be a good neighbor. Thank you.
That concludes the public comment.
Mayor Fetty, may I make a comment? I
course
won't
you
take my
can.
whole 3 minutes, I promise.
Go ahead, Renee.
Thank you. I am not against a Montessori school, but I am against a Montessori school on Holbert Avenue. The development on Kenton Lands Road between the underpass and the overpass and Riggs and Holbert is already zoned for industrial, I believe. That development is going to eventually have 70 dock doors, which one would assume that eventually there would be 70 semis. The Montessori school proposed for Holbert is proposing several different equations for how many students initially and growing to an indefinite number. The setback for the school from the road is 50 feet. A compact car is an average of 177 inches long, or about 14 and a half feet. That distance would allow approximately 3 to 4 cars in the driveway, with the rest lining up on Holbert. A medium car, such as a compact SUV, would take up 187 to 197 feet, or about 4 cars into the driveway. A large car is 16.9 feet to 18.1 feet long, or 3 cars. If the proposed 70 students came to a location in 2 to a car, there would still be 30 cars lined up on Holbert to get into the school. That would be if everyone was driving a compact car. Now, talk about getting back out onto the street, whichever way you want to go. Once the traffic from the new business that is already zoned for trucking and the Montessori school traffic start competing, it'll be a massive traffic jam. The Montessori school quote a best guess estimate that they might have as many as 150 students. You guys do the math. How'd I do?
I might as well. So I understand that it is zoned for public and parochial, and I understand the reasoning for just adding the private school because it wasn't that way years ago when we did the ordinances. However, I have received numerous phone calls and listened here, and I don't think it's appropriate place for any school because there's so much traffic on that road already. It's just not a good place for that much traffic in a school, so that's just my opinion too.
Everybody has expressed my concerns perfectly. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I appreciate you all being here tonight. And I've taken all kinds of notes, so I appreciate that. So we're going to move on to our mayor's report. I will make it very, very quick. I want to let you guys know that the Art in the Park on Thursday, May 9th, it's from 6 to 9. It was supposed to be in Spring Valley Park, but we're expecting inclement weather. So we have actually been graciously offered the firehouse bays. So the fire department is going to move out all the trucks, and all of our vendors and our music and our food is all going to still go on, and we're going to have a great time. So let the party continue. I also want to let you know that the Youth Leadership Academy end of program celebration is tomorrow night. It's at 4:30. I ask if any of the council members are available to attend. It would be really special for you guys to be there. We have 12 kids that are graduating from the program, and I have enjoyed every moment with them. They are amazing kids, and they're the future and the leaders of our city. Hopefully some council members in there and a mayor or two. Oh. Just to clarify, Firehouse 3, right next to Spring Valley Park for the Art in the Park. Okay. Let's see here. Right here in council chambers. You guys all received one of these. I want to give a big shout out to Will Perkins with the Town Money Saver. He has graciously given us, since January, a spot in their Town Money Saver. He's just doing this out of the kindness of his heart. He wants to be a really good community partner. He's a representative from the Erlanger Business Council. So if you get a chance, check your mailboxes. It goes over all of the events that are coming up in the city. And just really nice of him. I also want to just really briefly shout out to the fire department. I spent the day with them yesterday. So I got there about 7:45 and I left at 7 p.m. Had dinner with them, had lunch with them. They had a great time. They even let me drive the new fire truck. I know. I can't even believe it. He didn't know that. It was really fun and I was really careful, I promise. So I want to thank you guys. You're amazing, and thank you. All right, let's go ahead and continue with reports of committees. We have Public Safety, Police, Mrs. Sykamp, and Ms. Kyle.
I just have a few things. First of all, you all may know about this. We had a swatting event, a call on April the 11th, and I just wanted to let the citizens know that this is such a dangerous situation. Don't do that. It's wrong. You're risking the lives of all these first responders. So if you know anybody that does something like this, please report them. And then on April 15th, this is another highlight, that Dexter Helton, I don't know if you all recall, he was the one that was in the officer-involved shooting at Peacocks. He was sentenced to 15 years. After pleading guilty to 2 counts of wanton endangerment and fleeing police first. So, that's kudos there that we've got that taken care of. Another dangerous situation. And I also wanted to let you all know that Chief Brendel was elected to the Kentucky chapter of the National Academy Board. So I want to congratulate the chief. And Coffee with a Cop was another success. We held it at Silver Lake. Lots of people were there. Nice event. So a lot of people come out to that and have questions and meet our police. And I want to thank the police department for that also. End of report.
Chief's in the house.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Public Safety, Fire, and EMS. Mr. Nicely?
Yeah. I've got the job giving a report. Mr. Holmes didn't make it, but the police, fire department has been a good job for a month, and there's already a record for everybody to see. And if anyone's got any question now, we got the chief himself, Todd Whitaker here. You could ask him. He knows more than I do about fire.
Okay, if you didn't hear that, June 1st is the open house at the firehouse. So please mark your calendars. Okay, we have Public Works, Mr. Cahill, Mr. Skidmore.
Yes, I would, with all the rain, I'd like to give Public Works a heads up, hats off. They've done a great job mowing all the parks and keeping up with everything, so we appreciate that. They look great. Thank you.
We do have Bright Leaf and Atlas that will be having mill and overlays starting this week on Thursday, so just to be aware of that. Center Street is ongoing with the street repair, and we do have electric and drinking fountains being installed in the Depot Park and Rainbow Park. We do have 2 project bids tonight that we'll be discussing. Thank you.
Okay, Administration, Mrs. Skidmore and Ms. Cahill.
We don't have a report. We just want to request that Mr. Gatlin read a municipal order declaring city property as surplus. And the Public Works Department has 12 break room chairs that are in poor condition or unfit to sell. They would like these chairs declared surplus so that they can be disposed of as garbage during the legislative.
All right, thank you. Finance and Business Development, Mrs. Pitts and Mrs. Reckers.
This evening, we have the first reading of the ordinance to approve the amended budget for next year. Mayor and council have also been presented a copy of the completed budget document for review and our records. Additionally, there is a hiring committee that's been created to fill a position of finance director because our finance director, Steve Bodie, will be leaving his role as finance director, and he and his family are relocating to Virginia. Mr. Bodie, any comment?
Okay, Codes, Building, and Zoning, Mr. Burke and Mr. Meyer.
Nothing for our committee.
All right, you've heard the reports of the committees. Do I entertain a motion that we adopt as presented? Mr. Meyer, Mr. Burke, all in favor? Or, excuse me, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. All right, we have the reports of the representatives this evening. Mrs. Skidmore?
I have a short report for Kenton County Alliance. Our meeting began at noon with a light lunch at the Kenton County Library on Kenton Lands Road. Our guests were the students who made posters for the tank buses to display on the local buses. We stand united against drugs and alcohol. Stay united against drugs and alcohol. The students represented football, cheerleading, cross-country, basketball, and volleyball. There are various posters on the tank buses that you may see around town. So kind of look out for them because the kids worked really hard on these. And Officers Shepard and Scott Nottingham presented the new STAND program. That's Students Against Narcotic Dependency. This program has been trademarked. They explained the difference between DARE and STAND. DARE restricted any changes and was not flexible. With STAND, if situations arise where a different drug or addictive substance arises, this program can be changed to fit the needs. It was interesting that the dog's name is LEA, L-E-A. It's an acronym for Law Enforcement Agency. I thought that was really clever. And Kenton County Alliance final meeting will be in June, and our coordinator, Diana O'Toole, is retiring. End of report.
Thank you, Ms. Skidmore. Anybody else have a report? Okay. Oh. You can go ahead.
So we had a meeting tonight regarding Old Erlanger Road and Houston Road, and the issues poor Cherry Hill's been dealing with semis cutting through there. So we made some changes with signs, lots of signs, and it worked for about 2 weeks, and now the semis are going through again. So we met discussing different options, and we're going to send those to Jim Viox and them to come up with a better concept idea, and we're going to try to find something temporary for the next month until they come up with a better plan. But just want everybody to know we are definitely working on this, and we'll get this problem fixed. So that's it. Thanks.
Okay. Now we have the reports of city operations. City Attorney, Mr. Gatlin.
Yeah, I just want to clarify a couple things on the, in legislation tonight. We have a pretty full legislative agenda. First off, budget that's been talked about, I think everyone kind of understands that. But I just wanted to briefly mention what's going on tonight as it relates to the text amendment for private schools, and just discuss a little bit about the role of this body as opposed to the role of the Board of Adjustments, because I think there's a little confusion on that, and the role of the Kenton County Planning Commission. This body is looking at whether it is appropriate to add private schools as a conditional use in the residential zone. It's really not appropriate for this body to determine whether this specific site is appropriate for the specific parochial school that is being suggested. A lot of the arguments that we've heard tonight, I believe, were also presented at the Kenton County Planning Commission, but they were most appropriately should have been presented and were presented at the Board of Adjustments. Right now, all of the residential zones in Erlanger, as well as I believe all of the residential zones in Kenton County, allow both parochial and public schools as conditional uses in the residential zone, as Mr. Tyson indicated. We discussed this matter with PDS, along with, Lakeside Park has already done this. And the idea of the Planning Commission and PDS is, if we allow parochial and public schools as conditional uses within residential zones, then we really shouldn't distinguish private schools. Because again, as Mr. Tyson indicated, probably in 1963, 66, whenever this was all done, I'm assuming you must have been a part of the drafting of it. I used to work with Mr. Tyson, so I could throw some shots at him. But in all seriousness, private schools probably weren't contemplated. So again, all this body is deciding, and not tonight, it's just first reading, no votes will be cast tonight, but all this body is going to do at their June meeting is determine, does it make sense to include private schools as a text amendment, as an additional conditional use? Now, what's unique about this situation is the Board of Adjustments has already met. That is unique. There's nothing wrong with how they did that. There was some practical reasons that the applicant wanted it done that way. So all of these issues that have been raised as it relates to traffic, as it relates to whether that's the best location, those are all things that really are within the jurisdiction of the Board of Adjustments. And all I would ask this body to consider in the next month, because you won't be voting on this for another month, is what really the role of council is. And it is, does it make sense to add a private school as a conditional use within the zone, considering that it already allows parochial and public schools? And I know that's not a popular decision in this group, but I think we have to understand what our legal and statutory obligations are. Also, we have several municipal orders. Those are fairly, I think Matt's probably going to cover the Dixie School Resource Officer, interlocal agreement, and the personnel policies. That's all I have.
Excuse me, Jack. I was supposed to ask you this before.
Uh-oh.
So you do have a municipal order to be read, authorizing the mayor to extend the current agreement with Republic Services through June 30th, 2021. Our contract allows for 3 more 2-year extensions.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was confused. All right, yes, we are reading that municipal order as well. Yes. Mr. Nice, there's a question.
Mr. Nicely?
Thank you. Now, with the, on the school, it does come under, it's zone, but doesn't the city or the council have anything to do with the traffic? That's a problem. We don't have the streets. Hubbard's going to be traveled. It is not big enough to handle that kind of traffic. Doesn't the council, doesn't that come into this?
Again, and I'm not saying that council can't look at other ways to address the traffic. I'm just saying on this very narrow issue, and planning and zoning is a unique world. On this very narrow issue, the only issue that's before council is should a private school also be a conditional use of the residential zones, considering that parochial and public schools already are. Issues like traffic, theoretically, should have been addressed by the Board of Adjustments.
We don't have them to say, it's a city council. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Then the city council does not have anything to say about the traffic or anything.
You could, by how you want to handle the text amendment. As an example, and it was brought to our attention, and I don't remember the gentleman's name, but in the current text, if it's an institution of higher education, it needs to be on an arterial street. That condition is only currently as it relates to an institution of higher education. That restriction has not been put in Section 8 for public, private, and parochial schools, or for public and parochial schools.
But what, there's no way that I can see, and other people the same way, the streets are not that big, and Hubbard Avenue is murder now to go down. And you're not even going to be able to go down. You start putting big trucks and the traffic for the students, teachers and all. The street is not up there for it. It cannot be. But we don't have, actually, our council cannot come along and vote it down just because of the traffic, then can we?
I cannot tell council how to vote. I cannot.
No, I mean, do we have the right to do that?
I would say that you're confined within the statute, and you would need to look under provision 3. Does the proposed text amendment have an adverse effect on the public health, safety, or welfare, or is it injurious to the public residing in or moving through the area? And
Answer my question.
All right.
Mr. Gatlin, we'll have an opportunity to debate this at the next meeting, right?
Yeah, this is
Okay.
unique to have a debate during my report, but I'm all for it. I've been kind of quiet tonight.
Jack, I appreciate that, but would it, I appreciate you describing and all that in detail, because it is very, very confusing to me. I would think that if we voted not to allow, that we would be discriminating.
I don't want to necessarily give the applicant a potential argument, but that is certain. But I do think that it would be a challenge that we would allow as a conditional use a public school or a private school based on religion and somehow discriminate against a private school that's not religious based. I think that that would be a unique situation we would be in, yes.
I just think that I don't want any part of that. Just let it be said.
Vicki?
Yeah, I have a question too, and I'm sure there's a lot of people in the audience that are confused about this issue. So in other words, council doesn't decide whether or not this particular school goes in that area. That's up to the Planning and Zoning and Board of Adjustments. Is that correct?
Be up to the Board of Adjustments. What's really weird about this situation, and again, it was at the request of the applicant, okay? The city didn't do it this way. We didn't recommend it. The applicant did it, and there were procedural reasons the applicant did it, and maybe they can address that next month. Because I've already told them they're out of time. The Board of Adjustments has already conditionally approved this school. So it does put a unique situation on this body that to some extent, the cart is before the horse. Now, in their motion and in their approval in front of the Board of Adjustments, it's conditioned on this text amendment passing this body. But it is a little unique that we are in this situation that we're deciding really the very narrow issue, is it okay to add private schools to a conditional use that already includes parochial and public, when we know that the Board of Adjustments has already considered all of the arguments that have been raised here and voted to conditionally approve it. It's just a unique situation.
Is there any other comments from council? Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, I have a question. If it would have gone the way it usually does, where it would have come to us first, as a council member, if we felt that the road was too busy, could we have spoken on behalf at the Board of Adjustments meeting? Or is that something we aren't allowed to do? I know. I guess my question is
You're asking a hypothetical. I don't know if I want to answer a hypothetical.
I think if it would have been flipped, it might have been a whole different story. If
Well,
we
let's
could have
also
seen it
remember
first.
that there was a full public hearing in front of the Canton County Planning Commission on this issue. So, the way the process normally works, and it doesn't mean that the way it's been done this way is wrong, it's just the way the process normally works, is we as a body make a recommendation for Dave Hahn to make an application to the Canton County Planning Commission to look at the issue, okay? Staff then at PDAS makes a recommendation. In this particular case, they made the recommendation for approval. And it's pretty simple. They said the proposed text amendment is reasonable since the zoning ordinances already permit parochial and public schools as conditional use within these zones. The Canton County Planning Commission then approved it and made a recommendation to this body. What's unique is the Board of Adjustments, and again, there were some technical and procedural reasons as to why the applicant chose to go in front of the Board of Adjustments before this body voted on the text amendment. The Board of Adjustments then heard all of these arguments and made their recommendation conditioned upon the passage of this text amendment.
Well, they've put us in a mess, and I don't, excuse me. I said, they've put us in a mess because now the public thinks we can fix this. And I think we are up for a big discrimination suit if we do not allow this private school. I think we're locked in. I don't think we have any say-so at all because of the procedures. And I'd like to make sure that that never happens again.
Okay, any other council comments? Okay, let's go ahead and continue to Mr. Kramer.
Okay, I do have two things. The Dixie SRO resolution, I do apologize, I didn't send this out well in advance. Edgewood contacted us last week. They renegotiated with some of the other cities on their SRO program. Currently, Erlanger, since 2008, when we entered into an agreement, we've been paying about $13,000 a year for SRO services. I wanted to get a little more details because they requested that we increase that to $15,000. Once we did get some details from Kaywood, Dixie, which one am I missing? Turkey Foot. On average, there's about 27% of the student population on those three schools come from Erlanger. So with that said, the $15,000 does seem reasonable that we are contributing to support our citizens. So that's what that resolution is we are going to be dissolving that last agreement, entering into a new agreement with the city of Edgewood to increase from $13,000 to $15,000 moving forward to support the SROs in that program. If anybody has any questions, by all means, jump in. I do apologize, I kind of came out late. The other municipal order I'll be requesting for you guys to consider tonight would be changes made to our policy manual that the staff and I have been working on for the last 6 months. I sent that out last week. I know it was a lot. I did put an executive summary of the major issues. Most of the chapters at some point was either tweaked just for grammar, spelling, or other legal issues. So if anybody has any questions, that's all I have.
Okay. You've heard the reports of the representatives and city operations. Do I entertain a motion that we adopt as presented? Mrs. Kyle, Mrs. Sedkamp. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Okay. Mrs. Hoffman, do we have any correspondence this evening?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Bids for tonight.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. As a representative of your Public Works Department and a representative of Jim Viox and his staff, we're happy to present to you two capital improvement projects tonight that you have before you. The first of which is the City Building and Firehouse 3 parking lot improvements. The scope of work on those two projects, or one project, is here at the City Building. We're going to be repaving the parking lots and doing some sidewalk improvement work around the building where sidewalks have settled. The other phase of that project is at the Safety Center East, or Firehouse 3. Some asphalt repaving work there as well, with some curb work, replacement, and improvements that will round out that project. The project cost came in at $113,000, and the low bidder was Rigler Blacktopping Incorporated. That, coupled with the engineering cost of $11,930, brings this project to a total of $125,239. This project was within our budget allotment and is within our current 2018 and 2019 budget amount. So with that, the Public Works Department would like to have a motion and a vote to approve that project for the 2018-19 budget.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Cahill and Mrs. Sedkamp. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay. Bid is accepted.
All right, great, thank you. The second project is Turfway Road Street Improvement Project, which is Circle Port entrance, which I kind of like to refer to it as, and it's from Dalwick Drive to Pacific Avenue. What this project scope of work entails is the removal of the existing concrete pavement and replacement with new concrete pavement, along with some with a new sidewalk and some sidewalk improvements that will tie in this project with a grant project that the city got some time ago to put sidewalks along Dalwick. So this will be kind of like the first phase of that grant project we're including under this project. With that, that was low bidder on that project was TMS Construction Incorporated at a cost of $434,975. We have a contingency fund for extra work or unanticipated work of $40,000, and engineering fees of $47,500 for a total project amount of $552,474. Again, this project is within our budgeted amount. This is a 2019 and 2020 project, so we won't be starting until next budget year. So with a motion contingent on council approving their budget, we would like approval of this project, contingent on that.
Mrs. Sedkamp and Mrs. Pitts, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Bid accepted.
Great. Thank you, I appreciate it.
The Police Department vehicle equipment and installation.
Good evening. We only received one bid from 9/11, and the amount was in our amount we budget for this year. So we'd like to go ahead with them.
And that budget is for vehicle equipment?
Vehicle
installation?
equipment, lights, sirens, radios, and it'll be, I think, 7 cars next year.
Just for the record, can you put what that dollar amount is? If you know it. I'm not trying to play
I do not, I'm
dump the
sorry.
chump.
I don't have it on me.
In the absence of that, can we bring this back next month, or do we have that? Oh, yes, okay.
For clarification of the motion, I think we need what the dollar amount is that we're,
That'd be good.
I mean, I get it, it's one bid, but
I would, well,
Okay, we'll come back to it.
okay.
Okay. We'll continue on in the agenda. Old business. Does anybody have any old business to discuss? Mr.
Yeah,
Meyer?
I wasn't sure. I know we're going to make a change to the procedure for council meetings, but I just wanted to give a quick update on the blight task force. We're continuing to meet, looking at properties, but just we're assessing a zone-by-zone time to really understand what is the scope of that we're really looking at, and then we'll come back to the council and make a recommendation on how do we address some of the items once we find some patterns. But just to give some numbers, we looked at the Stevenson, Perimeter, Hallam, Mary, Timberlake area. The codes enforcement looked at 279 properties, found 10 properties that had issues, but only 2 of those that we determined were actually blight. The others had some citations, some garbage, rubbish that were cleaned up and rectified. So only 2 so far, not enough to develop any patterns yet. So we'll come back once we have some more information over the next several months from the rest of the areas within the city.
I do have a question. The 2 that were blight, whatever, are they elderly people? Are they, do we know?
Well, one of them is a vacant house now. It's the one that we haven't been able to do anything with. It's been that way for quite
quite a
time.
while.
Yeah. So I think we have some ideas what we'll do with that. But
Okay.
once we have some additional houses, that's where we'll determine, what are some of the causes, how do we,
Right, 'cause I
address the
remember
situations.
we all talked about that. If it was somebody elderly and they needed help or something, we take care of it or help them out. Thank you.
Mhm.
Good report.
Anybody else with old business? Okay. New business to discuss? Yes, ma'am.
I'll be super quick. So recently, there was kind of an overhaul as to where the voting locations would be in Erlanger. There are no local government elections this year, but we do have a primary on May 21st and a general this year for statewide elections. So I'm just going to quickly run through these. 2 weeks ago, the clerk sent out a notification to every registered voter in Kenton County where there would be changes. But in the event that you didn't receive it, that's why I'm going to run through this list. If you previously voted at St. Barb's, you will stay at St. Barb's. If you previously voted at Erlanger Baptist, you will stay at Erlanger Baptist. If you voted at Baptist Village, you will stay at Baptist Village. A lot of the schools basically have consolidated down, and it's more for convenience and staffing. Arnett now votes at Shaven Gym, Erlanger FOP will now vote at Shaben Gym. Miles will now vote at Shaben Gym. If you voted at Tishner, you vote at Shaben Gym. If you voted at the city building, you'll vote at Shaben. Lindeman, you'll now vote at the Kenton County Library. If you voted at Firehouse, which was in the bays of the Firehouse, you'll vote at St. Barb's now. And if you voted at the Lakemont Clubhouse, you'll also vote at St. Barb's. If you need information further, kentoncountykyclerk.com, and you can type in your information and find out where your location is.
Very good. Thank you for that information. Okay, let's go back to the police department vehicle equipment and installation bid.
Okay, the amount that was bid was $70,974.30.
I make a motion that we approve that bid.
Okay. So Mr. Meyer and Mr. Burke. Okay. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Bid accepted. Thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with legislation. Got 9 pieces.
First is an ordinance of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, amending Erlanger ordinance numbers 2469 and 2475, and the budget adopted thereby for the City of Erlanger for the fiscal year beginning on July 1, 2018, and ending on June 30th, 2019. By summary, this is merely the statutory requirement pursuant to KRS 83A that amends the budget, and you can see attached the Google sheet which shows the items that were struck through that now have been amended. This is just a first reading and does not require any action of council. Next, we have an ordinance of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, adopting a budget for the City of Erlanger for the fiscal year beginning on July 1, 2019, and providing that no money shall be expended by or on behalf of the City of Erlanger except in accordance with that adopted budget, again pursuant to the requirements of KRS 91A030. This is the adopted budget for July 1, 2019 through June 30, 2020. And you can see a very small Google Docs sheet of this budget, and then also this really awesome, I want to take this to my other cities and show them how good Erlanger does. Detailed budget. Again, this is just a first reading. Next, we have as a first reading an ordinance amending the Erlanger zoning ordinance, adding private schools as a conditional use within the residential zones. By summary, and just for clarification of the record, I'm going to read the recommendation that that the Erlanger City Council hereby would approve the said text amendment attached as Exhibit A. The entire exhibit should be attached, which adds private schools as a conditionally permitted use within the residential zones. The proposed text amendment is authorized to be included within the city zoning ordinance per KRS 100.203. The proposed text amendment is reasonable since the zoning ordinances already permit parochial and public schools as conditional uses within these zones. The proposed text amendments will not have an adverse effect on the public health, safety, or welfare and will not be injurious to the public residing in or moving through the area. And it also is based on the testimony presented at the public hearing on April 4th, 2019. Again, that is just a first reading and does not require any action tonight. Next is a municipal order. This is a municipal order of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, authorizing the mayor to extend the current agreement with Republic Services for the exclusive use of the public streets and rights-of-way of the city for the collection and disposal of all solid waste from property of the city and collectible solid waste from all residential collection units within the city. The attached agreement is attached. This is an extension of the existing agreement, and this municipal order would allow the City Council to extend the current contract of Republic Services through June 30th of 2021 and authorizes Mayor Fetty to sign the attached agreement. This does require a vote.
Okay, do I entertain a motion that we adopt this municipal order as read? Mrs. Pitts and Mrs. Reckers. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Next is a municipal order of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, making the written determinations required by KRS 82083 for the sale or other disposition of property owned by the city. Attached is the sheet which would show that 12 break room chairs are being disposed of as scrap due to age and condition. This also requires a motion.
Do I entertain a motion that we adopt this municipal order as presented? Mrs. Cahill and Mrs. Kyle. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
This is a municipal order of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, amending the City of Erlanger procedures for meetings of the City Council. This is a municipal order. I believe Mr. Kramer has sent out a more condensed version of this to show what our agenda would look like. I do apologize to Ms. Hoffman for making her go crazy and that the letters don't quite line up and they jumps from like F to I. So we will clean that prior to the mayor signing it. Sometimes auto format goes a little crazy on Microsoft Word. But all of the strike-through portions are to be deleted and the underlined portions are to be added. This also does require a motion and vote.
Do I entertain a motion that we adopt this municipal order as read? Mrs. Reckers? Mr. Nicely? Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Okay, opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Next is municipal order of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, amending the City of Erlanger personnel policies. This was a pretty comprehensive project that was done by Mr. Kramer and his staff. My understanding is that both the executive summary and the entire comprehensive document was emailed out to everybody. It is in essence amending portions of chapters 1 through 8. Again, this does require a motion and a vote.
Do I entertain a motion that we adopt this municipal order as presented? Mrs. Seitkamp? Mr. Burke? Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Jack, excuse me, I'd like to say something before we do this next municipal. It's the stop signs on Halbert at Clay and Locust, and I don't know if any of you all have ever lived over there. I have, and I am against any stop sign that goes there. Mr. Nicely spoke. It's just, it's too easy just to go back down the hill. I've never seen a wreck. Been here 50 years, never seen a wreck on any of them. So I'm completely against any stop signs on any of them streets. And I would like to have a vote after it's read.
I agree with you, Kevin.
Can we get a motion in a second first before we start any debate on this?
Yeah, I'm good.
Let me read it first and then we'll do a...
There we go, go right ahead.
Yeah, right.
I just got excited.
I think you're in
That's
cahoots with Mr. Kramer. He and I have a bet at 9:15 when this meeting's going to be over, and we're at 9:14 now.
Well, I'll have more questions. I'll have more questions. Go ahead.
A municipal order of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, requesting the City of Erlanger to add a stop sign to the current three-way stop located at the intersection of Locust Street and Halbert Avenue, Center Street and Halbert Avenue, and Clay Street and Halbert Avenue. Specifically, that we would be adding a stop sign at the current three-way stop located at the intersection of Locust Street and Halbert Avenue, Center Street and Halbert Avenue, and Clay Street and Halbert Avenue. The signs would be placed on the west side of the intersection on Clay, Center, and Locust Streets. Now we need a motion.
Do I entertain a motion that we adopt this municipal order as presented?
Okay, Jack. move
All
on.
right. And that's that.
Municipal order fails for lack of motion.
No discussion necessary. Moving along.
All right, so this is next and last is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an interlocal agreement with the city of Edgewood, modifying a school resource officer program in Kenton County schools impacting students in both communities. Pursuant to KRS 65210 through 65300 of the Interlocal Cooperation Act, this would have to be blessed by both the city of Erlanger and city of Edgewood, and Mr. Kramer has already discussed why this is necessary. This does require a motion and a vote.
Do I entertain a motion that we adopt this resolution as presented? Mr. Burke and Ms. Pitts. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Do I entertain a motion to adjourn? Mrs. Kyle and Mrs. Skidmore. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Have a good evening.